Okay, let's dive straight in. Running a modern organization uh, feels like juggling chainsaws while blindfolded, right?
Huh. Yeah, that's one way to put it.
We're swamped with information, constantly need to be nimble, and here's a thought that might just, stop you in your tracks. Even our basic human activity at work has a surprising energy cost.
Hmm.
Today, we're plunging into the honey badger management framework, which our sources suggest isn't just another like flash in the pan, but a truly integrated system designed to handle these very realities.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that the honey badger framework seems to be taking a fundamentally different approach.
How so?
Instead of just layering onto existing management styles, it's conceived with key elements like the smart use of AI assistance,
Hmm.
a really structured approach to how knowledge moves within a team,
Okay.
and a model of leadership that's distributed rather than purely hierarchical. And at its core, it aims for a more, let's say, energy-aware operational footprint. So, in essence, the central idea seems to be about optimizing both human and technological resources in a very deliberate way.
Exactly. So, our deep dive mission today is to cut through the noise and understand what the Honey Badger framework actually does, and more importantly, what makes it genuinely different based on the material we've looked at.
Sounds good.
Let's start with something that might make you rethink your morning coffee. The frameworks focus on reducing direct energy consumption.
Okay, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Our sources highlight a study comparing the energy used by humans versus computers for a typical 8-hour business planning session.
Right.
And the numbers are quite revealing. For men, the total daily energy expenditure, including outside of work, was estimated at around 3.06 kilowatt hours.
3.6.
Okay. For women, it was about 2.45 kilowatt hours.
Oh,
Now, if you run a laptop doing a similar automated planning task for those same 8 hours, you're looking at roughly zero point 0.4 kilowatt hours.
0.4. Wow, that's a pretty stark contrast.
It is.
So what are the immediate implications there for organizations thinking about this framework?
Well, the big one is sustainability, but maybe we can dig into the human energy side first.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you give us a sense of where all that human energy goes during the workday itself?
Certainly. The analysis breaks it down into a few components. There's our basal metabolic rate,
Yeah.
just keeping our bodies running.
Body statistics?
Right, the basics. That accounts for roughly 0.97 kilowatters for men and 0.78 kilowatters for women over an 8-hour workday.
Okay.
Then they factor in the extra mental effort, the intense cognitive work, which actually adds a relatively small amount, around zero point 0.03 kilowatts for men and zero point 0.02 kilowatts for women during work hours.
Oh, that's less than I'd have guessed for the thinking part.
Yeah, and finally, they include things like, moving around the office, having brief chats, supplementary physical and social activity,
Mm-hmm.
estimated at about 0.12 kilowatts for men and zero point 0.1 kilowatts for women during the workday. And of course, even outside those 8 hours, our bodies are still consuming energy. That's factored into those total daily numbers I mentioned earlier.
Interesting. So it's not just the brain power directly applied to the task driving that big difference compared to the laptop.
Exactly. The framework's argument isn't solely about the energy needed just to think. It points to the fundamental energy demands of human biology across the entire day,
Gotcha.
along with all the associated infrastructure needed to support us: food, heating, cooling, transport, you name it.
Right.
So by strategically automating certain routine cognitive functions with optimized IT systems, the framework suggests you can achieve a real sustainability advantage, not just in direct energy costs, but potentially in a broader environmental impact sense too.
That's a really compelling angle, especially now. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Another core element of the Honey Badger framework is its structured approach to knowledge transfer. It sounds like it's more than just, hoping people share what they know.
It is quite deliberate, yeah. The framework puts in place a system where specialists are actually expected to identify and declare any gaps in their knowledge.
Oh, interesting. So you have to admit you don't know something.
Precisely. And following that, there's a defined process for colleagues to offer assistance and fill those gaps. And overseeing this entire flow of information is a specific role they call the guru.
But the guru, okay.
By formalizing knowledge transfer this way, Honey Badger aims to move that tacit knowledge, the stuff that's hard to write down or explain,
Yeah, the tricky stuff.
into more explicit systems. It reduces reliance on just one person's memory and creates a more resilient and adaptable knowledge base, something many organizations really struggle with.
A guru, huh? So, how does having this role alongside the formal process actually stop those silos of knowledge from forming in the first place?
Well, the requirement for individuals to acknowledge what they don't know proactively encourages a culture of continuous learning and seeking out expertise.
Makes sense.
The peer support system ensures that knowledge is shared laterally across the team, and the guru acts as a facilitator and guide, ensuring that the right knowledge reaches the right people at the right time.
Okay.
Our sources suggest this kind of structured dissemination is key to speeding up how quickly an organization learns and adapts, which is obviously vital for staying competitive.
Right. If crucial knowledge stays locked in one person's head, it's definitely a bottleneck waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Now, the framework also seems to give significant weight to something a bit less concrete, but arguably just as important, the psychological well-being of the team.
Yes, and this seems to be a really thoughtful aspect. Honey Badger explicitly aims to cultivate psychological safety within teams.
Okay, psychological safety. How does it do that?
Well, one way is by promoting that culture we just talked about, where admitting you don't know something isn't seen as a weakness, but as a necessary step in learning. Open communication is also strongly emphasized. The whole idea is to create an environment where people feel comfortable taking risks, asking questions, sharing ideas, without fear of, judgment or negative consequences.
And how does creating this sense of psychological safety actually benefit the organization in, practical terms?
Well, the research in this area is actually quite robust. When employees feel psychologically safe, meaning they feel secure in expressing themselves and taking interpersonal risks,
Okay.
it correlates pretty strongly with lower levels of stress and burnout.
Ah, that's huge.
It is. Our sources also point to increased employee engagement and a boost in creative thinking. Ultimately, teams that feel safe are generally more innovative and tend to perform at a higher level because people are more willing to contribute their full selves, their best ideas.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, when people are constantly worried about looking foolish for asking a question, you're definitely not getting their best work.
Not at all.
Another interesting feature is the framework's commitment to transparency through these real-time dashboards. Tell us a bit more about what kind of information these dashboards provide.
Yeah, transparency is presented as a core operating principle here. And these aren't static reports you get once a week or something.
Right.
The framework utilizes dynamic, real-time dashboards that are updated frequently throughout the day, multiple times apparently.
Wow, okay.
This gives leadership, and likely team members as well, an up-to-the-minute view of how tasks are progressing, whether compliance standards are being met, and crucially, if any potential roadblocks or issues are emerging.
So it's kind of like having a live feed of the organization's key activities.
Precisely. And the benefits, according to our sources, are significant. Firstly, this level of visibility allows leaders to make quicker, more informed decisions based on the actual current state of operations, not guesswork.
Yeah, less lag time.
Exactly. And secondly, a high degree of transparency can foster greater trust and alignment across different teams and levels within the organization because everyone is essentially working with the same information.
Okay, let's circle back to that unique role you mentioned earlier, the guru. Beyond just facilitating knowledge transfer, how does this role contribute to the overall robustness and reliability of the Honey Badger framework?
Right, the guru role. It's designed as a kind of guardian of the framework's principles and processes. Their responsibilities are pretty multifaceted. They actively monitor whether teams are adhering to the defined workflows and guidelines. They play that key role in mediating and facilitating knowledge transfer we discussed.
Okay.
And they provide ongoing feedback to individuals and teams to ensure continuous improvement. Think of it as distributed leadership focused specifically on the health of the framework itself.
Interesting.
This helps maintain best practices and allows for quick identification and correction of any deviations from the intended way of working. It builds resilience into the system.
That makes sense. What are some potential challenges in implementing such a role effectively, do you think? And does the framework address those?
That's a good question. Our sources don't delve deeply into the challenges of implementation, but you can imagine needing someone with the right blend of process knowledge, technical understanding, and strong interpersonal skills. It's not just about enforcing rules, it's about coaching and facilitating.
Right. It sounds like they need to be both knowledgeable and have really good people skills. Now, the framework also mentions a dual leadership model. How does the traditional manager role interact with this guru role?
Yeah, so Honey Badger envisions a leadership structure where you have both a traditional manager who typically focuses on the goals of the product, of the project, and the assignment of tasks.
The what?
the what and the when, essentially. And then you have the guru, who is focused on the process, the flow of knowledge, and adherence to the framework itself, the how.
Okay, so a clear separation.
A clear division of focus, aiming to clarify responsibilities.
Yeah.
The manager drives the deliverables, while the guru ensures the way work gets done is effective and aligned with the framework's principles.
Right.
By having both product-focused leadership and process-focused expertise, the framework aims to foster a leadership style that's adaptable and well-suited for agile, fast-moving environments.
That sounds like it could lead to clearer accountability and potentially faster decision-making if everyone knows their lane.
That seems to be the intention.
Another aspect of the framework is its deliberate approach to managing time, with these short sprints and strict meeting boundaries. How does this contribute to overall efficiency?
The emphasis on short work cycles, or sprints, and the enforcement of pretty strict time limits for meetings and other communication events is all about maximizing the effective use of time.
No more endless meetings.
Hopefully. The goal is to minimize wasted time on unproductive activities and to create faster feedback loops within teams, get information flowing quickly. This structured approach helps ensure that the organization's most valuable resource, its time and other resources, are focused on the activities that generate the most value, ultimately leading to improved productivity and, theoretically, lower operational costs.
Right. Endless, unfocused meetings can really kill productivity. We all know that.
Definitely.
Now, with the big shift towards more flexible work arrangements, how well does the Honey Badger framework accommodate remote and hybrid teams?
Well, given its reliance on digital tools and structured communication, Honey Badger actually appears to be inherently quite well suited for remote and hybrid work environments.
Okay.
Those real-time dashboards we talked about, they're accessible from anywhere with an internet connection, obviously.
Yeah.
And the framework's emphasis on clear, scheduled communication protocols is absolutely crucial for maintaining alignment when teams are geographically dispersed.
Yeah, you can't rely on bumping into someone at the water cooler.
Exactly. Furthermore, the framework seems to encourage the use of AI-powered tools and virtual collaboration platforms to support the productivity and cohesion of these distributed teams.
So it seems like it was built with the understanding that teams might not all be in the same physical location, or at least it adapts well.
It certainly seems designed with digital interaction at its core.
The framework also highlights the importance of continuous progress monitoring. How is this actually implemented day to day?
Yeah, progress isn't something that's just checked on sporadically at the end of a phase. The framework incorporates regular, frequent check-ins
Okay.
and relies heavily on those real-time dashboards we discussed. This constant monitoring provides an ongoing, almost live view of how projects and tasks are advancing.
And what's the main benefit of having this continuous oversight? Is it just about keeping tabs on people?
Not primarily, no.
Yeah.
The main advantage presented is the ability to identify potential problems or delays very early on.
Okay. Proactive.
Exactly. It allows for prompt intervention and corrective action, significantly reducing the risk of major project setbacks and the associated waste of time and resources. It's a proactive approach to keeping things on track and ensuring accountability, rather than reactive firefighting.
Okay, so we've looked at a lot of different facets of the Honey Badger framework: energy, knowledge, psychology, transparency, leadership, time, remote work, monitoring. Quite a list.
It is quite comprehensive.
How do all these individual benefits ultimately come together to impact the financial health, the profitability of an organization?
Well, the framework basically posits that the combined effect of all these elements creates a powerful engine for profitability. It's synergistic.
How so?
Lower energy consumption reduces overhead costs. Pretty direct. More efficient use of time translates to higher output and potentially lower labor costs per unit of work.
Right.
Robust risk management, facilitated by the guru and that continuous monitoring, minimizes potential losses from project failures or inefficiencies. And enhanced knowledge transfer fuels innovation and allows the organization to adapt more quickly to market changes, potentially opening up new revenue streams or improving existing ones. So all of these factors contribute to both reducing operational expenses and strengthening the organization's competitive position, which ultimately should drive increased profitability.
Makes sense.
Our sources even point to broader research suggesting that organizations that effectively implement digital transformation and agile principles often see significant financial benefits. So this aligns with that.
So it's a synergistic effect where all the components work in concert, ideally, to improve the bottom line.
That's the core argument, yes.
Now, our analysis also looked at how Honey Badger compares to some other well-known management methodologies.
Yeah.
What were the key takeaways from that comparison?
Right. We evaluated Honey Badger against 8 other popular methods, things like Prince2, PMP, Scrum, Agile 2, Lean, Six Sigma, DevOps, and Kanban.
The usual suspects.
The usual suspects, yeah. Across 10 key criteria like flexibility, AI integration, transparency, knowledge transfer, leadership structure, and so on.
And what stood out?
What really differentiated Honey Badger, based on our analysis, was its truly integrated approach. For instance, it places a strong, explicit emphasis on AI integration, which isn't necessarily a central feature of many other established frameworks yet.
Okay.
Its highly structured approach to knowledge transfer, with the guru role, is also quite unique. The dual leadership model we discussed and the rigorous real-time progress monitoring via dashboards also set it apart.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe most notably, its overt consideration of energy and time optimization as core design principles is not something we typically see addressed so explicitly in most other methodologies.
So while other methods might focus really well on specific areas like Scrum on agility or Lean on waste reduction,
Exactly.
Honey Badger seems to be trying to cover a broader spectrum of modern organizational needs in a more interconnected way.
That's a good way to put it. While frameworks like Scrum and DevOps certainly excel at fostering agility, they don't necessarily incorporate the same level of focus on, say, sustainability or the formalization of knowledge transfer baked into the system.
Right.
Honey Badger also appears to offer a more comprehensive, or at least more explicitly stated, approach to transparency and monitoring through those real-time systems.
Okay.
Furthermore, its inherent suitability for remote teams and its alignment with broader ESG, environmental, social, governance considerations, particularly the environmental piece, give it a distinct profile compared to many traditional management approaches.
So the conclusion was that no other single framework you looked at really addressed that particular combination of factors as comprehensively.
Correct. Each framework has its strengths, of course. But Honey Badger seemed unique in the way it integrates these specific concerns: energy, knowledge, psychology, transparency, leadership, time, remote work, monitoring, and ultimately profitability into one cohesive system.
So it sounds like the Honey Badger management framework is really positioning itself as a holistic solution for the complexities of running a modern organization.
That's certainly the picture that emerges from our analysis, yeah. Is the integration of energy awareness, that sophisticated knowledge-sharing mechanism, a distributed leadership model promoting accountability, real-time operational visibility, and a design that inherently supports effective collaboration regardless of location.
Right. And for you, the listener, constantly seeking insights and ways to optimize, this deep dive into the Honey Badger framework offers a look at some, let's say, cutting-edge thinking in organizational management.
Mm-hmm.
So here's something to really consider as we wrap up. With sustainability becoming increasingly critical and remote work now pretty much a standard for many, is an integrated framework like Honey Badger pointing towards the future of how we effectively run organizations?
A provocative question.
And maybe more personally, what specific elements of this approach, the energy focus, the guru, the dashboards, the psychological safety aspect, what resonates most with the challenges you're currently facing in your own context? Something to mull over.